Hello, my beautiful friends. Thank you for joining me as I talk about numerology in this video. So many of you may know me from Golden Heart Rising, which is my tarot channel. I originally started using tarot with numerology, and I'm going to go into what numerology is, why it's beneficial to know, and how you can use it in your day-to-day life. So numerology is numerology is the power of numbers, the frequency that numbers hold. And by understanding the frequency and energetic value of each number, we are able to understand more about ourselves, more about situations in this world. It's similar to zodiac, very similar, but numbers are it's a universal language. Numbers are in everything. Numbers are within ourselves, numbers are within nature, numbers are its basis of life, essentially. So the more that we can understand our frequency through numbers, through our own numbers, through our charts, then again, we're going to understand more depth within ourselves. So I don't know the exact origin of numerology. I remember years ago, I did do a deep dive into where it came from. From what I can recall, it is an ancient practice. It was probably around the time when our ancient ancestors were studying the stars. And it was probably around that time where this just magically formed out of a practice of ancient wisdom. There was a teacher, Pythagoras, who used this in his mathematical formulas, who used the basis of energy behind numbers, formed a lot of the systems used today in numerology. And from what I can recall, long ago, his study hall was actually burnt to the ground. He was very secretive of the knowledge. He kept things under wrap. He wasn't very open of where this came from. This is from my own understanding. It's been a little while since I've gone into the history of it. But essentially it's based on ancient wisdom, and it holds a lot of the same value and weight as zodiac information. And truthfully, personally, I find that going into my numerology, I learned a little bit of a deeper layer within myself from what I knew of my zodiac readings. I just found, for me, it gave me a little bit more depth into myself. So again, the universal language is numbers. It's a non-biased language, and we hold numbers within ourselves based on our birth date, based on our full name. And when we incarnate into this lifetime, our parents are chosen, our birth date is chosen, that therefore establishes our life path, what we're going to do and the path we're going to take in life. And the thing I find very fascinating is that when we are given our name at birth, our name very much suits our energy, because again, those letters hold vibrational value to them. So the letters contribute to our name, contribute to our identity, contribute to how we show up. So when you meet someone who's a Sarah or a Dave, they fit that name. And then I'll go into the numbers as well too, because when we look at the numbers, it's very much based on symbology as well. It's a very symbolic, very similar to tarot as well. Like, it does have a certain frequency to that symbol. So I'm going to go through all of the numbers 1 to 9. I'm going to go quickly through them. There's a lot to know, and I do definitely recommend going into your numerology chart because it is hugely beneficial. You're going to learn a lot about yourself, and especially learning our challenges. And we have to be aware that we all have challenges. We all have shadows. We all have sides to work on. And the more that we can understand, the more we can work through, and the easier our life will be. The more empowered we become, the more not only empowered, but the clearer again that we have of our life, and we can work through some of those challenges or all the challenges to step into more accomplishments, to have an easier life. And if we know some of these challenges that we hold, we can face them and we can work through them so that we don't have to keep repeating the same mistakes over and over again. And that's part of our experience on this planet, in this lifetime, in this form, is to learn and to use these techniques to, again, evolve fast, to evolve in a way that is going to be a higher expression of ourselves. So I'm going to go through all of the numbers, and in numerology, there isn't one number better than the rest. You know, some people say, oh, I'm a master number this or this, and none of them are better than any of the others. So they're all just different expressions of energy. And I'll get into all of the numbers as we move along here. Your life path is derived from your date of birth, and it's added in a specific way, but you can go online, you can find a calculator easily. I'll even leave a link below that you can go to. I do life path readings monthly on my channel. I find it very important. I know that life path numbers aren't as worldly known or as sexy maybe as zodiacs. I don't know why. For some reason, the zodiac craze has gotten on a lot stronger than numerology for some reason. I'm not sure why, but I hope to bring it back. I hope to focus on the numerology and offer more guidance through my readings and through my offerings, as well as I do find it's very important to understand the numbers that we have within us to do the work that I do, essentially. All right, so let's get into the numbers. So we have 1 to 9, and then I'm going to go into the master numbers, and each of these numbers can be your either life path, which is your primary path in life. That's your main number. It's like your sun sign, very similar. Your soul urge, which is what pulls you forward. It's what's driving you. It's what's important for you from an internal standpoint. And your expression number is what you, it's almost like it almost is a little bit fitting to your sun sign, your rising, and your moon. Your rising might be your expression, and then your moon could be your soul urge. Very, very, very comparable, I would say. Yeah, and your soul urge is what's pulling you forward. Your expression is how you are perceived in the outer world and how you want to be perceived, how you want to express yourself, how you want to show up, and truthfully, some of the talents that you can offer the world, some of the things that you can fit into really nicely. And I will get into the expression actually here, because one thing that I found out a few things in my chart years ago that changed a lot for me, a lot. And I find that when we know certain things within our chart, even psychologically, when we get to understand some of the things that we're born with, some of these energetic traits, if you will, or challenges, we get to almost, when we understand what they are, we get to release something because we have a deeper understanding of ourselves. And there were a couple of things that I did find within my chart as a life path 9. When I was going through extreme challenges, I did find some information there that helped me out of where I was, because again, I could identify what was going on through something that I wouldn't be able to learn from anywhere else in my outer world. I wouldn't have been able to find out the information that I needed to really get through that time by really understanding myself if it wasn't for the numerology. And also, I'm an expression number 5, or expression number 1, 55-1, but expression 1. And I am not meant to work for other people. That is basically written in my overview for my expression. And I remember reading in there somewhere that it said you won't really understand your potential as an individual and be confident with that until you go through something really hard. And I mean, I've gone through a few of them, a few of those hard lessons, and I did learn it, because again, if you don't know this information, you will tend to repeat the same mistakes over and over until you face it, until you go, okay, there's a pattern here, something needs to change. Clearly, I need to look at things differently, or I need to understand more about myself. And that's why this is so valuable, because again, there are a few things that I found within the chart that really changed a lot for me and helped me advance and make big adjustments in my life so that I can move into the direction that I'm meant to be on and to not repeat some of the same mistakes. All right, so let's go into the numbers. So I'm going to go through this quickly. There's a lot to know about these numbers. And as I mentioned with the top 3, there are so many layers within our chart, but those are the top 3 you want to pay attention to: your life path, your soul urge, and your expression. I find those are the biggest ones. There are karmic debt numbers, there are karmic lessons, there are all sorts of things that you can find in your chart. But for simplicity purposes, let's just start here. Your top 3, if you have a 1 or any other number, if you have a number 1 to 9 or an 11, 22, 33, what I'm going to tell you now applies. So it can apply for your life path number, your soul urge, or your expression number. Same as zodiacs, very, very much the same. It's just going to mean something different if that number is in your life path, your expression, or your soul urge, because again, it holds a different alignment with a different aspect of your life. Okay, so let's go into the numbers. So we have number 1. Number 1 is associated with the sun. Number 1 is about beginnings. And number 1 from a symbology standpoint is very upright. So the number 1, if you see a life path number 1 especially, or someone with a lot of ones in their chart, they will walk tall. They will be very confident. They will speak in their power. Excuse me. They will tend to be very strong leaders. The 1 is a very leadership oriented type of frequency. So they're meant to be, they're natural born leaders. They're very innovative. They're very much at the forefront of change. Flip side, shadow side, they could be very headstrong. They might not be able to finish what they start. I sometimes compare the number 1 to Aries, and especially I am recording this video in April 2022, and we are in a universal month number 1 in Aries season. So this was a big energy to work with as far as clean slates, new beginnings, starting new things, saying yes to maybe the change that we want within ourselves and within our world, within our personal world or the world. So it is, I feel, very comparable. I feel the life path 1 could be associated with a little bit of that Aries energy with, again, initiator, can be very headstrong. There's a shadow side, of course, that the 1s might need to learn to be confident and learn to own their power, and really work through some confidence building to get into that true essence of themselves. Let's see. Now the number 2s, it's all about service. The number 2, it is written, or it's drawn. The symbology of it is almost as if someone's head is bowed. So how can I be of service? They're very gentle. Most of them. It depends on, again, what else is happening in the chart. This is a life path 2. It's if you have a lot of 2s in your chart, or if you have them as an expression or soul urge. So the 2 is much more of service. The 2 is also very intuitive. So if you're an 11, a master number 11, you'll have the 2 as your root number, which is an 11-2. So the 2 is very sensitive, very emotional, very much about the feelings. It is tied to the moon. And so it is very, again, very sensitive, very empathic. If you're an 11, I'll get to that in a moment though, but 11 is a very intuitive number. So again, it ties to the intuition side. The 2 is very diplomatic. In business, you would, if a company was designed based on numerology, you would have your number 1 as your CEO, the head strong leader. Then you'd have the number 2 being maybe a little bit in the background, maybe a VP, but managing the people. So the number 2 is very good with people. Again, very diplomatic, very much of service, very relatable. I can understand you, I feel you. The shadow side of 2 is that it can be very emotional. If it is in a shadow, lower polarity, it can let its emotions get the best of them. So it's very important that the 2 understands how to feel and use their emotions in a very diplomatic way. And it might come over time and with maturity to understand how to work through and work with their emotions. Because again, if they're off balance, then they could very well be very emotionally reactive. The mother and the father, number 1 and number 2, those are the big numbers, right? From and also too, I have to mention that when you are born into this planet, you're not coming in order of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's not how it works. You're coming into this planet to have an experience of that frequency. It doesn't mean that if you're a life path 3, you've already been here for a life path 1, you've been here for a life path 2. It doesn't have an order. There's no order. It's just a frequency. Okay, so when we go into number 3, you can think of number 1 being the father, number 2 being the mother, the 3 is the child, and it holds that childlike energy. Now, if it was a career, if it was a job, like a numerology environment, a work environment, then the 3 would be the a creative director, perhaps the communicator, a writer, an expressionist, someone who's very expression oriented, who likes to communicate, who's likes to create, essentially, very creative, very joyful. They might be the person who brings everyone together, very, again, joyful, very harmonious, very young energy. So like I said, with that 3 energy, because they're very young, they're very, they just have a youthfulness, and they'll always have that youthfulness about them. The 3 written is very bouncy, right? Like it's very open in two areas. So it's very much all inclusive. Loves to be open to things. Again, very creative and very like kind of bouncy, right? When they talk, they walk, they're like joyful. They're like, they have a lot of fun. They move around very freely. Because they have a lot of young energy, they're young at heart. They're usually artists, designers, they could be musicians, they could be writers. They like to express. If they have like a lot of threes and ones, they could be very innovative, but very creative in how they problem solve. So again, it depends on the pairing. When you look at your life path numbers as well, it is important to look at if you have when you calculate your numbers, it's good to look at what comes before the root, like your life path number, because there might be two numbers, like maybe it's a 14-5, for example. 14 is a karmic debt number, which I won't get into in this video, but you almost have to look at your life path as the root or the child of two parents. So if you were a life path 5, okay, we'll go 3 because we're in threes. If you had a 12, if you were a 12-3, like so 1 and 2 equals the 3, then you would have the essence of the 1 and the 2 within your own energy. So you will have natural born leadership qualities, as well as being very sensitive, as well as being very diplomatic, and that will equal how you respond in the world and maybe how you create. So there are a lot of layers to this, but again, I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible with this video. So the shadow side of 3 is that because it is very joyful and very childlike and very innocent, it can be a bit naive. It might not be able to pick up on a lot of depth within relationships or social cues, and sometimes can fall into narcissism. So the 3 might feel a little bit intimidated in some situations, might not be able to understand deeply certain situations as well. But it also depends on what else is going on in the chart. So this is, again, very general. Let's go into the 4. Now the 4 is in a corporate environment. You have the 1, 2, 3. Now you have 4 is the perfect employee. They like structure. They like stability. They like to be organized. Now the 4 written as a symbol is very structured. It's very balanced. It has the architecture of it, I would say. It's more of like an architectural type of symbol where it has a steady foundation. And even though it has like the top of the 4 is off to one side, it's still very balanced and firm. It stands very strong. And the 4s tend to love order, structure, very secure in their foundation of what they want to build. They might be good at saving money. They might be good at being reliable, being very loyal. Now, the flip side of the 4 is that they might be very rigid. They don't like change. They're very unadaptable. Depends again on what else is going on in the chart, but these are just the single number meanings. So they might not like, again, change. I feel it's a little bit of a combination of maybe a little bit of like Scorpio, Taurus energy if you're into zodiacs. Like it has a fixed element to it. Very loyal, will work very diligently on getting the work done, like very focused, very dedicated employee. Again, they can be entrepreneurs as well. Of course, it's not, but when you think of a 4, they're typically just a really dedicated, loyal work person energy number. Number 5, you have the salesperson. So in the corporate structure, this person is going to go out and hustle. They're going to go meet people. They're going to rub elbows. They're going to get to know everyone. They're going to take people out, and they like change. So 5 is all about change. And if you see the repeating 5s, get ready for big change, because that's what this number is all about. It has one, if you see the 5 written, one side is open, the other side is open. So they can go both ways, and they're pulled in different directions because they like change, they like adventure, they like to move, they like to go this way, they like to go that way, they love new things. I wouldn't say maybe new things, but they just like change, they like movement, they like things to hustle and bustle. The 5 lower polarity, the challenge could be that it could be very disorganized, it could be very chaotic. It might not be able to settle down. It might not be able to pick one thing and do it really well, or it might not be able to commit. Once they commit, very good, but they could start off being very open to a lot of other things in life. Now, the number 6. is all about love. The number 6 is about family, the glue that binds, protection. It's very protective energy, very giving, and very nurturing. So the 6 written, it's like it's holding on to what it loves. It's holding on, it's nurturing. It has the belly, or it's like the arms are wrapped around their loved ones, what's important for them. So it can be a very protective energy. The 6 is the nurturer. It is pure love frequency. It's a beautiful. And if you see a lot of 6s, don't be afraid of that. It does have a negative connotation in some aspects of our existence, but truly it is a beautiful, remarkable pairing. If you do see that, it is all about love. It could be about partnerships, romance, but also self-love and self-care, and just that heightened frequency of love, of universal love. The shadow side of 6 is the 6s need to be very cautious of their boundaries. Now, the 6 can be very giving. They're very giving. They could extend and give too much where they're depleted or they get taken advantage of. And they need to manage their energy, and they need to manage what they give to people in a very careful way. The 6 can also be very, sometimes even passive aggressive, because they give, and then if someone takes advantage of them, or if they're giving too much and they know that they shouldn't be doing that, they'll be a little bit annoyed with themselves or angry about that situation, but they might not necessarily express it in a very confrontational way. Although they can be confrontational, but it takes them a lot to get there. They will be very protective of the family, so they will protect when they need to protect. It's not like, again, the people who are the most loving and caring can really stand up for themselves when they need to, and when it comes down to their family, when it comes down to what they love the most. The 7, number 7, this is, now there are a lot of there's a lot of content out there about 7. It's God's number in the Bible. It's referred to as the God's number. There are a lot of references pertaining to the number 7 in the Bible and in other spiritual practices. The 7 is a very sacred number. There are a lot of 7 steps to things, to ascension. And the 7 is, it's the most spiritual number in numerology. So the 7 is the sage. So it's almost like the staff of knowledge that is being planted in the ground. That's what the 7 is. The 7 is the seeker, the truth seeker. So it goes deep in for knowledge, it goes deep in for wisdom, and it doesn't come out until it knows the truth. And it seeks the truth through intellectual knowledge and through wisdom, through greater wisdom and knowledge. It is, again, the most spiritual number in numerology. So a lot of people with 7s in their chart will tend to be spiritual, will tend to even be closet spiritualists. Even if they don't say that they are, they're probably in the background doing something back there, like really being curious about different practices and esoteric practices of that sort. And the 7 tends to be introverted, tends to like its own space because it likes to just absorb information and go deep in. Is very cautious of who they let in, very maybe not so trustworthy shadow side. And on the other side, they could be very irritable. They could be very irritable about people, about things. They could also be perfectionists as well. So that might be a bit of a shadow side on that number 7. And again, if you see the 7s in consecutive order, it very much means trust. It very much means to trust that the universe is working with you, to surrender and be open for the magic to happen. 8 is all about personal power and prosperity. The number 8 is a very lucky number in Chinese culture. It is, again, very much about personal power, prosperity. It also is the infinity sign on its side. So it is, everything is in motion. What we put out is what we get back. And the 8 is the karmic equalizer. So those with 8s in their chart, or if they're life path 8, will put things in their place, or they will have to deal with the karma to make things right. But they have a great amount of potential to create extreme success. And it really is up to them to believe in themselves and to make the right steps to create that wealth and success that they want. So again, it's very important for the 8 to work with the proper amount of energy and control of that karma, working from a place of good. If they're working from a place of ego, that's when the karma might be set in motion to set things right, to set things straight. Again, they can build and rebuild. If they might tend to fall down a couple times, or might even lose all their wealth, but they can rebuild and come back 10 times stronger. The 8, if you see 8s consecutively, 888, it means personal power, prosperity. It means prosperity. It's a very prosperous number. So if you see that, maybe go buy a lottery ticket or something. But it means that maybe there's money coming your way, or that maybe new opportunities coming your way that might lead to great wealth. The 8 on the lower polarity could fall into very aggressive, maybe even egocentric kind of energy. Could be very dominating, could be abusive of power, could want things done their own way, be very aggressive again. So there could be a challenge there. But generally, the 8s are all about building and creating great success and great wealth. And it doesn't mean it could very well come from the greatest place, of course. So let's go to the 9s. Now the 9 is at the end of the cycle. Those with the life path 9 are here to conclude all of the lifetimes here on earth. The 9 is old soul energy, and it holds the frequency of all of the numbers preceding. So it does have a little bit of the energy of the 1, 2, 3, all the way to 8, and then the 9. The 9 is a very magical number, meaning that if you add numbers 2, 9, and like a 5 and a 9, it will go back to the root of the 5. Same when you multiply, like it has this loop. And if you, the 3, 6, 9 is a very magical and harmonious combination, mathematically and energetically. So Tesla was very fond of the 3, 6, 9 model. And the 9 is a very, very magical number indeed. Those with the 9s are very strong humanitarians. They care very much about the world. They have worldly knowledge. They see things beyond what a lot of other people can see, but they also have to be very careful that they don't push their wisdom or knowledge onto people without them asking, or offer to help without other people asking, because they see and they feel and they understand what is happening with people and within certain situations or global events. But they have to also be very cautious of where to create their influence, where to be of influence or not. The 9s can fall into great depression, and often, sometimes, end their life. There's a lot of energy around that because of all of the weight that they can carry in from their past lives. It's a very, very, very hard life path to live. It can be, not all of them, but it can be a very, very, very tough life for the 9s, because they bring in a lot of past life experiences from this planet, from being here on earth into this lifetime, that they need to heal, that they need to wrap up, that they need to conclude. And so it can be a perpetual cycle that they might be in, for healing, for transforming, for understanding, and all these things, for cutting loose ties, for karmically settling old debts and things like that. So the 9s in consecutive order, if you see 999, it is very much of endings. So you very much might be experiencing an end. If you're in a personal year 9, then it very much means the end. It means that you're at an end of a cycle. So everything happens in cycles. Everything starts in the beginning at the 1 and ends at the 9, which is all about conclusions. So it is very much a wrapping things up, finalizing. The 9 on this other polarity can be very irritable, very angry, very moody as well. They can be set off very easily. But on the flip side, on their higher polarity, they could be so giving and loving, and they hold a lot of that same frequency of the 3 and the 9 as well. Or sorry, 3 and the 6 especially, because it is a very complementary energy, I find. So it does care. It has a very immense amount of care for the world and care for people as well. All right, so let's go into the master number. So we have master number 11. So the 11 equals also the 2. So it is the 11 double digit, and then it goes into 2. So the 1 and the 1 is the 2. That's the master visionary. The 11 is all about the vision. It's a very intuitive number. It's the most intuitive number of all. So those with number 11 in your life path or your chart will tend to be very in tune, can be healers, can be seers, but even if you work in a corporate environment, not even doing spiritual work, you'll still be very intuitive to other people and let your intuition guide you. And that's a huge process for number 11. The master numbers also hold a lot of old soul energy. So you have extra energy to work with, but it doesn't mean that it's easy. It means that there's more to understand and work through, and there may be a lot of really big challenges and obstacles for the master numbers to overcome. And you can either fall into the pits, or you can work through them in the healthiest way possible and overcome and step more into greatness, step into further greatness within your career and relationships and personal growth and all those things. So the 11 is the master visionary. So it is the most intuitive number of all. As I said, it goes to the root of the 2, which is the most sensitive number. So again, they're tied to the cosmos. They're the conduit to higher self, to source energy, and they can be a really great conduit for information from the higher realms. The number 22 is the master builder. So they are all about the foundation. So think of that number 4 magnified. So the 22, because they have the 2s in there, again, can be very sensitive. So they tend to be a little bit more in the background. Even though they can be leaders, they tend to be a bit softer. They still have a little bit of a softer side. They love structure. So it's the master builder. So they love organization, structure, old soul energy again. So they might be in politics. They might be something like in, I don't know, like something grand, like they might find themselves like dabbling into like building things of meaning, building things of change. So they like the structure. They have that visionary. They want to build the foundation is carried through from the visionary of the 11 into the builder. So they'll build the vision. So they will build that foundation to something very successful, but they could fall into obscurity. So like I said, even if you have a master number, it doesn't mean that it is a sure shot for success. There are still a lot of challenges. The 22 can fall into obscurity. They could go completely on the other side and get lost in life and ideas and completely fall off the rails of their life purpose. It does take work to get back on track and to be fulfilled in the life purpose that they're meant to have. The 33, the master teacher. So this is a beautiful, beautiful number. It's like the number 6, essentially magnified. So the 3 is all about joy, communication, harmony, and creation. And then it goes into the 6. 3 and the 3 is the 6. So it's a 33-6. So it has the love frequency. It's very strong energy, very old soul energy, tough lessons, of course, right? With some of that old soul energy, but they have the ability to teach and guide others through their heart, through their wisdom, through their love. But like I said, these master numbers do hold a lot of frequency, and it can easily go off balance because the 3s are all about balance and harmony. And when they are off balance, then it can really go to the wayside and they might not get back. They might not get back to their balance. So that's why it's important to know some of these higher and lower polarities. I'm going very fast through this, so there's a lot more information online that I do suggest you to look at because it's very, very important, and there's so much to know. It's not overwhelming. I would say actually it's very simplistic, but the information goes deep, and it's very helpful for your journey and for you to understand, again, the challenges that you might be facing and your strengths and how to work with both of them. All right, so I'm going to leave it there, but that's why it's very important to understand your numbers, to work through them, and to identify some of these challenges that you might be facing to turn them into strengths. All right, so I do hope that is helping you throughout your journey. Enjoy, and if you have any questions or comments, of course, leave them below. I love hearing from everyone, and I will be seeing you soon. Take care.